All right, let's dive into a term you've probably never come across, but one that underpins an entire online worldview: Gynofascism. It's a concept put forward by a speaker named Jerry Sanchez, and he claims it explains, well, pretty much everything about power in the modern world. We're going to break down what he means using his own words.
So let's start right here. This quote gets to the absolute heart of the problem that Sanchez says his followers are up against. This idea that men have become second-class citizens, that they're basically disposable. It's a really provocative way to frame things, and it sets the stage for the entire system he's built. Okay, here's our roadmap for today. First, we'll look at his diagnosis of a world that's stacked against men. Then, we'll explore the exclusive community he offers as a solution. After that, we'll dig into gynofascism itself, see how he says it works, and wrap up with what he calls the final opportunity that all of this creates. So, first things first, what's the core problem that even needs a solution like this? Well, according to Sanchez, it's that the whole of society has basically become hostile territory for men. And this is what that hostility looks like in day-to-day life. The argument is that men are getting it from all sides, from the government, even in their own homes. The picture being painted here is one where a man's only purpose is to be an economic engine, work, pay taxes, and get nothing but disrespect in return, in a culture that's just not on his side anymore. So, if the outside world is the problem, what's the answer? Well, Sanchez proposes a very specific kind of solution, an exclusive community he calls the path of the initiated. And that path leads to this in-group, the GS lineage. Now, this isn't just sold as some online forum. It's framed as a kind of modern-day apprenticeship where members get, and I'm quoting here, direct transmissions of secret knowledge. The promise is that this is stuff you just can't get anywhere else, and it's the key to not just surviving, but thriving. And getting that secret knowledge isn't a one-step process. There's a clear path, almost like a funnel. You start out as just a viewer, watching the public stuff. Maybe you take a course and become a student. But the real goal, the prize, is to become a disciple or an iniciado and get direct access to the man himself and the community's deepest secrets. And this is the real pull, isn't it? The promise of belonging. For men who feel alienated or disrespected by the outside world, hearing that you can automatically belong to an elite group, a lineage, a brotherhood, well, that's an incredibly powerful offer of identity and status. Okay, now we're getting to the main event. This is the intellectual glue that holds the entire worldview together. It's a term Sanchez claims to have come up with himself: gynofascism. This is his grand theory for what's wrong with the West. So what on earth is gynofascism? Well, let's break it down. Gyno refers to women, and fascism implies authoritarian state control. So according to Sanchez, it's a system where the government and the legal system are being used to enforce what he calls female whims. And the endgame of all this, he argues, is that being a man, especially a traditionally masculine one, is slowly but surely being made into a crime. And these points really lay out the rules of this supposed new reality. You'll notice how much it focuses on the law. The central argument is that justice isn't objective anymore. Instead, the whole system is rigged to protect women and punish men. A key idea here is that the laws are kept fuzzy on purpose, so that pretty much any man can be found guilty of something, while women are shielded from any real-world consequences. Okay, so if that's the what, the next big question is how. How is this system of gynofascism actually enforced? Let's take a look at the gears and levers that he says make this whole thing run. At the center of it all, according to this theory, is the state. It's described as a buyer of consciences. The idea is simple. The government holds on to power by giving different groups in society what they want in exchange for their votes and their compliance. It's a transactional relationship to keep everyone in line. And this table breaks down exactly what that transaction looks like. On one side, women are given what's called a disguise of security, the laws tilted in their favor. And on the other side, men get money and, crucially, distractions to keep them calm and occupied. Things like video games, OnlyFans, and he uses this really dismissive word, croquetas, like kibble for a pet, implying men are just being fed cheap treats to keep them docile. This quote just boils that entire idea down to its essence. The claim is that if you peel back the layers of legal jargon, what you'll find is that the real principle driving modern law isn't justice. It's just appeasing female whims. And there's another key strategy at play here. Good old-fashioned divide and conquer. The system, he argues, intentionally pits men against each other by race, by politics, by how much money they have. The thinking is, as long as men are busy fighting each other, they'll never unite to see who their real supposed enemy is. So after painting this incredibly bleak picture of the world, you have to ask, where does that leave you? This brings us to the final part of the puzzle, and it's a surprising twist in his call to action.
Right, so here's the paradox. Instead of ending on a note of despair, Sanchez completely flips the script. He argues that this hostile world is, ironically, the absolute best time in history to be a man. Why? Because the system is so harsh and predictable that it creates a massive opportunity, but only for the guys who know the secret rules of the game. This all leads to a very clear choice, a fork in the road. You can be one of the herd, what he calls la parada, the guys who are controlled by the system, who just complain and fail. Or you can become one of the initiated, someone who understands how the system really works and uses that knowledge to get freedom, abundance, and everything else the herd can't have. And this final quote just says it all. In his view, the gynofascist system isn't really a prison, it's actually a giant filter. It does the hard work for you by weeding out all the weak and clueless men, leaving the pearls, the best women, the best opportunities for the initiated few who know where to look. So we've laid out the entire paradigm, from the diagnosis of the problem to the call to action. And at the end of it all, it really leaves us with one critical question to think about. Is this worldview a legitimate blueprint for survival in a complicated world, or is it something else? An elaborate justification for resentment? That's the question to chew on.